Is it now working? Is the sound now working? Okay, great. So the question is on the screen. Let me reduce my size and weight. I wish I could do that in real life as easily as this. Hello and welcome back. Sorry for that interruption. Uh, Technology is magical and mystical at all times. So our today's agenda is to work with critical reasoning, critical reading skills. This is not a basic session. This is not an introduction session. In fact, before coming to this session, I'm assuming people have finished the critical reasoning bulk of the work, or at least half of the work, and they're familiar with the game. Because this is a co-workout. Essentially, if you notice the last couple of sessions, I'm asking people what they think about the question, and more often than not, the community comes to the right answer. In case you haven't done so, the session will still make sense if you haven't finished the previous work. But sooner than later, one way or another, please finish it if you're a XAT course member or an all videos plus member. Plus, anyway, critical reasoning is the most sought after skill in the real world. So, it's a good workout anyway. The link for the PDF and this session where it will be stored is already given in that chat window, or I'll share it on the Telegram thingy as well. Shall we start then? So, anyway, the first question is on screen right now. Uh, Try it out, read it, give me your answers, debate with each other, and I will participate along anyway. So this is, and these are all XAT exam past year questions. So only from the exam questions category. This is from XAT 2008, I think, 8 or 9. I'm waiting for answers, guys. So the story is fairly simple. So if you notice, the language level of that is never too difficult. It's the application which is quite interesting a lot of times. Okay. So Goodrick Group Limited is planning to give top priority to core competence of production and marketing of Team 2007. So their core competence is production and marketing. Their plan is to focus or prioritize this in 2007. The company intends to increase the production of orthodox varieties of tea. Okay. Goodrick is planning to invest rupees 10 crore to modernize factories. Modern factories, orthodox varieties of teas, these are the plans. The company has announced a net profit of 5.49 crore for 06 as against 3.76 crore in 05. So think about it, but don't think too much about it, because a lot of these numbers or the information might not be needed at all. But the story is fairly straightforward to read, though you might have to visit it a couple of times as you evaluate the options. So I've got a couple of answers, E and E. Any other answers? The question is, which of the following can be deduced from the caselet? What can you infer? What can you conclude? If I tell you x plus y is equal to 5, and I tell you y is equal to 3, you can conclude that x is equal to 2. So it's like that kind of a process, not even mathematical, but verbal. No, no answers, only Anshu and Shubham. Is there a because if you give me another option, then I will respond to it and make an answer out of it, right? Yeah, right. So Yash says B. Uh, Option B, let's evaluate it. Increase in production of existing products enhances core competence. Does the production enhance core competence, or enhancing core competence will enhance production or increase production? Let's say if you are producing something or making something, do you increase the production to improve competence, or you improve competence to increase production, right? So I hope you see that the logic is actually backwards. You will work on your competence, your skills essentially. So say if you're a runner in a race and you want to get better, do you want to increase your speed so that you can improve your efficiency or skill, or do you want to work on your skills so that you can increase the overall output, which is speed, right? So I hope you see the connection. So that's what I'm doing. I'm explaining, right, that why B is not the answer. So all you have to do is figure out which option is going to work. So this is not going to work for me. Similarly, let me run through all options for somebody who's struggling. Production and marketing is core competence of Goodrick Group. Some of you might think, okay, yeah, it's there written in the passage. But because it is written or given in the passage, you are not deducing. It is already explicitly stated, right? And there is a better choice available, because if there was nothing better, then I would say, okay, yeah, this is at least factually correct according to the passage, which happens sometimes. But here there is a better option available, which we'll see in a minute. So A was explicitly stated. B, I hope you see why the logic is backwards. Okay, let's see. Core competence leads to modernization. Has anybody marked C? A, I have just rejected. Why? Because it is already stated, right? Core competence leads to modernization, or once again, does modernization lead to improvement in core competence, right? So let's say if you're a factory worker and you used to make everything by hand, and then you got a new machine. So because of the new machine, your competence, your core competence has gone up. So modernization will lead to improvement in core competence. Maybe not always, but that will be the relationship, right? D was just completely ridiculous. Goodrick has given top priority to production because it has earned net profit. Because it has earned this much profit, that's why they are prioritizing production. No, they are prioritizing their core skills, which is production and marketing. They're not doing it because of the 5.49 crore. And then finally, this is what I can conclude. So if I listen to this story, this company is planning to work on their core competence. So let's say if I'm a totally disconnected person just listening, I would say, okay, I can conclude that it is in the company's interest to do so, because if it were not in the interest, why would they work on these things, right? So it's quite a straightforward thing. And notice how simple the story was. Yeah. And okay, so for those who are struggling and if they find this very difficult, the solution is a lot of regular reading. Fiction, start with fiction and then add a lot of newspaper, article, survival to get better kind of reading, and this will be fairly easy. So I have given the reasons, I hope they make sense, but in any such scenario, time is also a factor, right? So I will say answer is E and I will move on. Are we okay with what's happening? Yeah, so short term, I have solved the question. Long term, the solution is to read better, invest in your language acquisition, vocabulary development a lot, and not as just like for 30 days for that, but as a lifelong process. It will pay off a lot. So I'm at the next question now. Try it out and let's see. Before trying out, please take a minute's breather and hit the like button and tell a friend about it. Opposable thumbs. The author reflects on the concept of blue ocean strategy. He explains that this concept delivers an instinctive framework for developing uncontested market space and making the competition irrelevant. Okay, great. The author remarks that the blue ocean strategy is about the best mix of attributes that result in creation of uncontested market space and high growth and not about being the best. Okay. So, and the question finally is the above paragraph appears to be an attempt at. So, what is this paragraph about? And then the options will lead you further. Waiting for answers. Hari says B, Shubham says A, Hitesh says B. Any other answers? B, B, A, B, B. A. 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 Okay, so I think so. A two, because look at somebody has written this paragraph, and the person who has written this paragraph is talking about the author. So he's talking about the author and a particular book, maybe. And since he's talking about the author over and over again, the author remarks that means I am talking about a book and its author, and therefore it is most likely to be a review of a review article. I mean, we know what a book review is, right? So I think the best answer is still A. Any other choices? Is he defining blue ocean strategy? Can you, after reading the paragraph, define it to me? What is it about? Or am I talking about the author talking about the blue ocean strategy, right? So there is a separation, and therefore the paragraph is not defining the blue ocean strategy. The paragraph is talking about the author and the book, or the author and the idea, and therefore not a definition, right? Yes. Can we move on? Tell me quickly, quickly. Any other options? Developing the framework for, again, go through the paragraph and tell me, can you tell me how to develop the blue ocean strategy? You have very little information. It's about the best mix of attributes, but I don't know what that means and I don't understand it too well. So, is it developing the framework? No. Highlighting how blue ocean strategy leads to better results or returns. Again, go through the paragraph. Is it telling you how the blue ocean strategy works? I will tell you how, let's say, the if I tell you a problem or a situation, and I mean, let's say I'm trying to avoid this example, but let's say in the farmer protest, right? There is a particular part of the law which says that if there is a, let's say, a conflict with the buyer while you're trying to sell your produce, you cannot go to the main court, right? And I say okay, and I explain to you that this is the problem in the story. So in that case, I'm highlighting the problem, or similarly, you can highlight a solution of how it might be leading to better returns. But is that happening in the paragraph at all? Sorry for that little bit of distracted excitement. So yeah, I think A is easy enough, especially if you don't overthink. Okay, so moving on, let's try one more. The Bistupur Sakchi corner needs a speed breaker. Loyola school children cross this intersection on their way to school and many a times do not check out for traffic. I get to read regular reports of cars and other vehicles hitting children. I know that speed breakers are irritating for drivers and I know that children cannot be protected from all dangers, but this is one of the worst intersections in town. There needs to be a speed breaker so that vehicles have to slow down and children be made safer. And the question is, which of the following argument, actually the question should say argument style, is used in the above text? Sahib says E. Shubham says E. So if nothing else, we'll today, at least through these questions, we'll learn this very well. The analogy as an argument. Now I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm saying there are other questions which will help us understand this process better. Shubham says E. E, E, E. Everybody is on E. And then you can crowdsource your answer and say, okay, if everybody is saying. But is everybody saying E or is this a very limited number? Mayank says E. So I will assume that all of you have got it. The correct answer is definitely E. And the way to go about it, and this is, nobody can train you for this, I mean, beyond exposure training maybe. And it comes from just reading and common sense. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, nobody will sit down and teach you all possible methods of argument making. They did do that in ancient Greece and they made great documents, they're available. That will happen in some college degree or whatever. But otherwise, you can just evaluate the option on the spot. If you can read calmly, you will be done. So, analogy, where two things are compared to each other. Is any kind of comparison happening? Is he saying that this is like that? Right? No, not at all. Is he providing any statistics at all in the story? Again, I did not see any numbers. Personalization, telling the story of one child's near accident at the intersection. If nothing else, we can also learn from these questions. This personalization is such a common thing in newspaper articles. When they want to talk about let's say the bigger agenda, they will not necessarily start with the bigger agenda. They will start with a particular farmer's or a particular soldier's story to get that overall representation going. Notice this next time you read an article. This happens a lot. So great. Consolidating my reading ideas. Attack. Point out the problem of people. Again, he's not doing that. So I'm guessing everybody got it as E, and I will not spend any more time on it. Try out the next question. Somebody said the window is coming in the way. Out with the window. Off with the heads. This is connected to the previous question, guys. These two questions are in order. So connected with the previous information as well. According to the research conducted by District Road Planning Department, 10% students come with parents in cars, 20% students use autos, use autos, 20% students use taxis, 40% students use the school buses, and 10% students live in the hostel inside the school. B. I think this was very, very easy. So I said this earlier in the overall beginning planning session that CR is definitely a scoring section more often than not, 95% of the time, not only in CAT but definitely for XAT. And it's such a practical, lovely, daily usable, real life skill. So please invest in it, and it connects very, very well to RC. So scoring plus a big skill plus a big exam skill. So I hope. Sorry, okay, sorry, no. B is not the answer. B is not the answer, guys. Everybody is wrong. I got excited by the consistency of B. B is not the answer. The speaker's argument earlier was that there should be a speed breaker because it is dangerous to children. Now look at the kind of information that is given. I think everybody was in a hurry and they went for statistical data, but there is another option with statistical data. Now think again. In that speech about CR, I forgot to confirm the answer. So the answer actually is option D, not B, and I hope you see why. I think if you just read it again, you will understand. Why? Because the argument earlier was that the children are in danger, and now the data tells me that okay, out of these children, they come with parents in cars. That means there is no crossing the intersection. The crossing the intersection is happening in cars. 20% students, they use autos. Other people, everybody is using a car or an automobile. That means they're not crossing the intersection. 40% use the school bus and 10% live in the hostel inside the school. That means almost everybody is safe from that particular intersection. So school children, so safety is not really a problem. Are we okay with this? Yeah, I mentioned that this is a continuation of the previous question. Or as you read it, you will understand. And if I did not mention it, I think I did. In case I did not, I hope you understand now that it is connecting it to the previous question. If it were only for this paragraph, I would have gone for B. I would have said, yeah, okay, B is fine, right? Because it is just presenting some argument. I don't know what the argument is, but statistics are there. So he must be supporting his own argument, and that would be fine. but I hope the confusion is resolved. Shall we move on, me lords? So this children are in danger. While you guys tell me to move on or not. When I was very young, I went. I mean, there was a fair near my house, right? Like in that open field that the whole circus comes and whatever. And there was a giant. What is it called? A Ferris wheel. It wasn't. No, not a Ferris wheel. You know that that Columbus's boat that swings in Appughar, a smaller version of that. And I thought it's such a small version, I will be able to handle it. So I got on that boat, and my family members and or I mean whatever cousin, sister, everyone was on that boat, right? And they were like, I asked someone where should I sit. They said sit at the back for maximum fun because that's where the maximum swing happens. So I said okay. I went there and I was very young. Okay, so and then the boat started. First few seconds were okay, but after that, when it started going high, you can feel the terror in your body, right? Like my legs were shaking and everything. And I wanted, and I could see the operator of the device, right, like right next to me. So I kept telling him to shut it down, shut it down, and let me get off, right? Because I don't want to do that. But I couldn't say that ki I am getting scared. So there was a baby crying in front of me. I kept saying that the baby is crying, that the baby is crying. Please stop it, the baby is crying. And but my family members knew that the baby crying was me, not the other one. So the story being related to the idea that I might have a problem and I might be taking the children's angle to improve my own argument. So yes, moving on. Baby's crying, baby's crying. Whenever you're in trouble, just point to a baby and say the baby's crying. You are okay. Hashtag. And if you're good at this, right, if you've been reading for a while, let's say if you're a CAT 21 member who's listening right now, you can ignore, I mean, push all maths for maybe April, May, and invest a lot in reading. If you can get better at reading, such questions are a breeze, right? It will hardly take any time, any effort to run through this, and they are fun to do. So, this can be a very strong section for a lot of people who are into reading, either from like because of historical reasons, or if they can start now also, it will make a fairly big difference. In Hume's eyes, productive labor was the greatest asset of a country, and foreign trade was valuable because it enabled a nation to use more and more varied labor than would otherwise be possible. Okay, great. But commerce was of mutual advantage to the nations involved, not a benefit to one and injury to another. The increase of riches and commerce of any one nation, added Hume, instead of hurting common instead of hurting, commonly promotes the riches and commerce of all its neighbors. The emulation in rival nations serves to keep industry alive in all of them. I'm reading it out loud so that you can also measure how much time does it take to even read it slowly. It doesn't take too long. And the question is, what is the importance of foreign trade in eyes of Hume? I've got a couple of answers, E and E. Waiting for others. Even if this you want to visit it again, you read foreign trade, the importance of foreign trade, and I did read foreign trade, and foreign trade was valuable. because it enabled a nation to use more and more varied labor than otherwise would be possible. Hint, hint, the answer is here. Siddhanta says B. It allowed the diversion of labor to export oriented industries. Where did this come from? Did Hume say this? Can you show me this information anywhere in the paragraph? Diversion of labor to export oriented industries. No diversion. I suggest you read this line once again slowly and don't think too much about it. Just absorb the information given. Foreign trade was valuable because it enabled a nation to use more and more varied labor than otherwise would be possible. Again, somebody said B. I have a problem. I already told you. What diversion of labor to export oriented industries? Read this again. Foreign trade was valuable because it enabled a nation to use more and more varied labor than would otherwise be possible. So, more labor and more varied labor is the benefit of foreign trade. Right? So answer then is E finally. It allowed application of varied labor force in a nation as written there. I thought the confusion might have been between D and E. It allowed varied because again varied application of labor force, and you might think okay, yeah, I just read it, varied application of labor force. In fact, I did this because a lot of times I get the right answer and I don't even bother read. I mean, I get the right vibe and I say yeah, surely this is the answer because I just read it. So I did not even personally bother reading this, right? But once I read it, I was like, yeah, this is better because this is perfectly in match with the information given. Siddhant again, overthinking. Greatest asset of our country. Productive labor was the greatest, and foreign trade was valuable to whom? The country. The second part is about how one nation's wealth is also, or trade is good for the other, right? Again, somebody has given answer as B, but I have already explained why B. Hit the rewind button, maybe 15, 20, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and you will be clear. Right? So the final answer is option B. I hope we see why. Yes, can we move on? So probably what happens also, a pitfall is when people read something that they think is fancy, right? Hume, productive labor, they start overthinking, overanalyzing. I have mentioned this in the reading course a lot of times. Stick to what the line is saying, right? Just read it out a couple of times and don't go left or right too far, especially if you're feeling confused. So that would be the tip. This is again connected to the previous question. So, oh, I was putting so much effort into my expressions, and now I realize that my face is not even there. You guys, OMG. This is a sponsored message. Please take a minute and use opposable thumbs or the fingers to hit the like button. Public service address over. So I've got a few answers. Siddhant says A, Shubham says A, Sai Krishna says A. I'll wait 30 more seconds, like every newscaster. You have 30 more seconds, sir. You want to go back, you can read it again quickly. But to commerce was of mutual advantage to the nations involved, not a benefit to one and injury to other. The increase of riches is good for everyone, blah blah blah. Industry alive in all of them. So it's kind of quite. Oh, suddenly there is a C gang. Okay, let's see. C says affable promotion of industrial activity among nations. Is that why free trade was advantageous, or was it simply because everybody became richer? After the industrial activity, even if you go for industrial activity, after that, what happens? Mutual increase in riches and commerce. And what does affable mean? I'm also curious to know. Somebody says B, emulation of industrial activity by different nations. Again, was that the advantage, or go through the story again? Was of mutual advantage to the nations involved, not a benefit to one and injury to another. The increase of riches and commerce of any one nation, instead of hurting, promotes the riches and commerce of all of its neighbors. Right? So that's the big advantage of trade, and therefore my answer is going to be simple enough A. Now, if you look at your choices, you will see you've gone a little here and there. Are we okay with this question, and can we move on? Yes, I'm assuming yes. Waiting for your answers, guys. This is very short, fairly easy. Okay, not easy. I mean, it might be difficult because if you notice, the options are long. So do read carefully, because the original argument is very small, very short, but the options are long. So pay attention. Siddhant, I've got a couple of answers. Siddhant says C, Sai Krishna says C. Shubham says B. Tasik says B. Okay, so what should I do? Should I give you the answer first, or should I? Cat invasion. The correct answer is C. The question was least dissimilar to the one exhibited in the argument above. So look at the argument. The argument itself is quite wonky. Nature lovers are attracted to forests and nature parks. Just look at the number of people visiting the Corbett National Park. So this is the conclusion, and this is the reason given. Right? Nature lovers are attracted to forests and nature parks. Why is he saying that? He's saying just look at the number of people visiting the Corbett National Park. Actually, let me just point out an error here. The number of people visiting the Corbett National Park, it might be that a lot of them are not nature lovers at all, right? So I hope you are aware of this error in the reasoning. Not that the error was the focus here. You just had to find an argument which was like this, right? That there is a conclusion and there is a reason given for it, and the reason is essentially just observational or semi empirical, right? So in that case, I hope you can see, some of you will be able to see just by their own automatic processes that why C is the answer. Somebody said B, so let me try and evaluate that. This machinery has increased the work efficiency of the workers. So this sounds like a fact that this has increased, and as a result, that means this is the conclusion, some of these workers are surplus to the company. So this is the reason given and this is the conclusion, but notice here the the reason and the conclusion are very closely connected. Yes, if the efficiency goes up, some workers will become surplus. So the logic is very orderly and tight compared to whatever little kind of an error happened here, right? So not the same flow. Essentially you have to figure out that it's the same idea. Are we okay with what I said about B and why B is not the answer? And if we are okay, then we can move on. Yes, no, maybe so. Shall I move on or do we want to spend more time? I'm assuming everybody is okay. This is so interesting. I really enjoyed this question. Move on, sir. Move on. I think the key is also to always read like quickly, efficiently, and read everything before really deciding on the answer, especially if you're struggling with the subject. If you're good at the subject, you will just read it and you will know, yeah, this is the right answer. This is from my own experience. Hitesh says E, and so it's a good thing that the if you really want to master this process, along with your answers, try and articulate your reasons as well. I know typing it out quickly is not the most ideal form, but at least to yourself, to a friend, think out loud. That will help a lot. That will also help the other person argue with you better. A lot of times I've seen in group discussions also people say E is the answer. They should say E because why a little bit, if possible. So Sai Krishna says B, Shubham says B. Shubham and Sai Krishna, why not check D and E, options D and E, compare them to option B. You are saying compare past performances of astrologers and economists in terms of number of option B, right? Yeah, number of predictions which have come true. And compared to that, in D and E, I'm conducting a live experiment. Conduct an experiment, conduct an experiment. So if I really want to resolve it permanently and once and for all, the experiment would be better. Somebody said D. Now between D and E, the only difference is compare the number of predictions and compare the percentage of predictions. Overall, comparing the percentage of predictions is a better choice. So, I mean, finally, my data would be something like this, that astrologers were 40% right and economists were only 25% right, or vice versa, something like this, right? So, then I will have a very clear comparison, because otherwise, number of predictions. So, let's say the astrology predictions, 40 of them come right, but economist prediction only 19 come right. But this astrology 40 were from 40,000, and this economics 19 was out of only 21. Now who is better? So this is your day one percentages basic theory being applied in critical thinking. Again, after a couple of rounds of such questions, and this is not the first time such a question has been done in the course, right? So we have, if you're a course member who's been following the whole journey, this is a familiar type. So I hope everybody is okay and dandy with E. Moving on. Two very interesting questions I like. I'll try and fit them both on the screen. Very interesting question, and once again, something that we teach you also about how real world arguments work every day. I hope it's readable. D and E. Shanmukh says D and E. Hitesh says Hitesh says A. Siddham says D, comma E. Okay, so let's go for the easy one first. As man casts off worn out garments and puts on others that are new, the embodied soul similarly casting off worn out bodies enters into others which are new. Wow, first of all, this is the like a major summary of Sanatan Dharma or the Indic Vedic tradition that Atma is cannot be destroyed. It just keeps changing bodies, which is like good news for those people who are like very scared of the phenomena of death and like okay, a new body will be given, and quite a powerful thought as well. But that's a separate idea. The answer here should be easy. It is E. Argument from analogy, right? Similarly was a giveaway. So such an easy question. Now it's easy, but if you're not comfortable with the language, it's going to be very difficult because you will overthink and you will make a mess of it. But otherwise, I think most of such questions can be very, very easy. Now let me look at the previous question. All the parliamentarians whom the reporter interviewed told that they had voted as per their conscience. Therefore, probably all parliamentarians voted as per their conscience. So, notice what is happening here. I am taking the data of few and then I am generalizing. This happened in your school maths as well, and this was taught as a tool, inductive reasoning, where you see okay the property is working for 2, it is also working for 3, it is also working for 5, it is also working for 11, therefore it will work for all possible numbers, right? That kind of a game, and this is what is happening, inductive generalization, right? You're going from one piece of data to generalizing, you're going from a narrow piece of data to a big conclusion, and this is a very bad form of reasoning. It works in math in certain cases, but overall in day-to-day life it is a very toxic form of reasoning as well, and this is used to a lot to demonize people. So for example, again, two examples from the real world recently, and I don't want to get into the real world politics of it, but just the argument analysis, right? So one of them was that during the corona, beginning of the corona epidemic, there was this whole oh my god, Tablighi Jamaat has done everything, right? And after the Tablighi Jamaat, the demonization of a whole community. Even if you assume that okay, 20,000 people were like behaving or misbehaved, the community is worth 30 crores, right? So how can you look at a data of few people and then make vast statements about everyone? Yo, all people are like that, right? And the same people will get very upset if you call the other, I mean, if you use the same data for their community. That okay, I've seen people do this, and they does it mean community Y is also like that? So of course not, right? So a very common world error where we look at two instances and say, oh, the whole world is like that. So I hope we see. In deductive reasoning, it is the opposite. If I say all the parliamentarians voted as per conscience, and I then tell you Ram is a parliamentarian, then you can say Ram also would have voted according to the his conscience, and that is your basic deductive reasoning. Or there is no such thing as deduction generalization. Even this sentence is all wrong. Generalization based on authorities, no, I mean, it's not a real thing. Argument from authority is very interesting. It is a case of a very famous case of logical fallacy, right? Argument from authority is essentially, I am telling you, I am the authority, and this is what parents use a lot, right? So your father will tell you, do not smoke, and you will say, why? Will say, because I am telling you, right? I am the dad of you. So that is called argument from authority. Another case of argument from authority, I discussed this earlier. Look at a few TV ads, especially for toothpaste, etc., and you will always see that there is a doctor person in the story. Is that a real doctor, or is it just an actor who has put on a white cloth, right? So it is just an actor, and the doctor image is given to give you that this is a person with authority, therefore believe him. So this is like a fraud that happens on a daily basis. Everybody is an expert at, and then you say, okay, yeah, if you're an expert, I must believe you, right? Are we okay with this? That's it. This is the course that we are right now, what that you are experiencing. Uh, so we have done some decision making, a lot of, not some, a lot of decision making, and some CR, XAT only specific, and a lot of general CR anyway. This course comes included with the CR reasoning, critical reasoning section anyway. So if you're a course member, and if you found today's session slightly up and down, maybe go through the preloaded section of the critical reasoning course. Right? Are we okay with this? Are we okay with what has happened? So that's it. We are done for the day. You can find more questions in the course page, and updates will be available on the Telegram thingy, the channel, as well as the group. The link for it you can find in the description box below. And you can find the link for the Facebook page as well if you ever want to drop in for a chat. Drop your query directly. Don't wait for a hi, hello. Just drop the question and then wait for the answer, right? Are we done for the day? So that's it. I will see you guys really soon. My name is Ankur Suryavanshi. This is Takshzila Shikshak.com. Courses in everything. That's it. Hit the like button. Tell a friend about it.